So, the theme for the month is Expanded Horizons. We talked about it last week. It was our first week. And I want you to know that the themes for the month are always coordinated with the Science of Mind magazine's theme for the month. So whatever we're talking about here on Sunday, the magazine will have articles that are that are similar to what we're doing here on a monthly basis. So get yourself a Science of Mind magazine. If you don't have a subscription, I know Paul has them in the Resource Center, or then sign up and get yourself a subscription. So we follow those. We coordinate with the monthly themes. And so see how well that works? So whatever we talk about here, then you can go back and read about it at home. There's articles in it. It's the big picture. So today's talk is the big picture. And I had no idea when I chose that talk title just how perfect it would be. But it is. I create these talk titles months and months in advance. So it's like I have the first 6 months titles of 2015 already in the book and already done. So really, I don't know what it's going to bring. I just know that the talk titles are all in place. And the interesting part about them is I get to live them. So I've made a commitment to myself. I think in 2015, the talk titles are going to be like, oh my God, how to spend the millions we've got. Right? Another talk title is going to be, how much leisure time can we possibly get? Things like that, I'm just like, I'm thinking in the big picture now, So I've got to be really, really purposeful with how I title these talks. So today the talk is the big picture, and we're going to be invited to really look at the big picture and what that's about, because sometimes it is just not what we think it is. We've had several people in our congregation, really near and dear people in our congregation, make their transitions in the last couple of weeks. And we grieve that loss and what that person meant to us and how we will miss them. And then what happens is we share stories about these people in the congregation and what they meant to us individually. And we start to hear maybe things we didn't know about them from other people, stories and strengths and prayers that they did and things like that. And a different picture begins to emerge. We begin to see that person more in different facets of that person, maybe that we've never known before. We begin to see what one person's life can do in a community like this, how one person's life can affect so many people on many, many levels, and how one person's life can change other people, how one person can set someone else on an entirely different path by something that they've said. We start seeing what a profound effect one person can have on so many people, and I think that's looking at the big picture. As a minister, we get to write eulogies. And the whole idea of a eulogy is to remember and express the value of that life. The value of that life. Because each life is whole and perfect and complete. And each life is so individual. And each life is so precious and altogether irreplaceable in the mind of God. And we get the honor of being able to express that, just how wonderful and different each life is. Not all of us are going to be millionaires or presidents or inventors or movie stars. And yet, each life is just as important. Each life has the kind of effect that has in the world, And what I think is interesting is that the life that we're living, while we're living it, we don't know that a lot of times, do we? We don't know what kind of a profound effect we're having on other people around us. We just don't know. We don't know how many people love us. We don't know how many people whose lives have been changed by maybe something we said. We don't know how many different people have started on a different path because we were in their life in a crucial moment. We just don't have an idea. But in our small, ordinary lives, we are miracle workers. We are miracle workers. And many, many times we just don't know it. We just don't know it. We never see it, and we just go on our merry way. And a lot of times we never ever get that feedback that we have drastically changed or improved someone else's life. I read this thing that said, Oh gosh, I don't even know where it is. I had it here someplace. Oh, one day you will just be a memory to some people. Do your best to make it a good one. One day you'll be a memory to some people, so do your best to make it a good one. And that's really the big picture, isn't it? That is really the big picture. First, do no harm. First, do no harm. And then what we do is to live lives of compassion and love and non-judgment and facilitate healing in those around us and facilitate change. Do your best to be a good memory in someone else's life. Pablo Picasso said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. I love that. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose in life is to give it away. To me, that's the big picture. That's what we are here to do. And so many times we get caught up in the little details of our lives. And of course we do. They're our lives. And those details are really, really important to us. They may not be to anybody else, but they're real important to us. And we get real caught up in them. And what we forget when we're all caught up in the details is that God is in charge and all is well. Bottom line is God is in charge and all is well. God is in charge and all is well. And when we forget that and we get caught up in the maze and the labyrinth that is our lives, we can remember God is in charge and all is well. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, we can go only as far as our spiritual knowledge takes us. Principle is infinite, but we shall demonstrate its power only at the level of our concept of it. Principle is infinite, but we can only use as much of it and demonstrate as much of it and align with as much of it as we can believe, embody, and demonstrate. We must enjoy a richer, fuller idea of life before we can enjoy a richer, fuller life. Does that make sense? Okay. We are consciousness. That's all we are. We are consciousness expressing all the time. And so for us, the bigger picture is that greater idea of us expressing into form through us. We have to stop being addicted to our outcome. We have to stop being addicted to the form it takes. We have to stop living other people's opinions of us. You know what you should do? No, yeah, you should just shut up, you know? We have to stop taking those things on, other people's ideas for our lives, other people's value of our lives, and we have to be our authentic selves. That's the only thing we truly can be in this world, is spirit expressing totally, purely as each one of us, totally individually and differently and uniquely from anyone else. I love this quote by Gabourey Sidibe. She said this. She said, if they hadn't told me I was ugly, I would have never searched for my beauty. She goes on to say, and if they hadn't tried to break me down, I wouldn't know that I'm unbreakable. Isn't that awesome? I am unbreakable, and that is the truth of us. We are spirit expressing in form. That's it. There's nothing else. We are not what people believe us to be. We are not our fears. We are not our limitations. We're not our job or the car we drive or anything else. We are simply spirit expressing. And we need to stop getting caught up in how it looks, how it should look, how it should be, how it came to pass, how it's going to come to pass. We have to give up all the hows, all of them. Spirit has a greater idea for us, and we must make it welcome. Spirit has a greater idea for us, and we must make it welcome. Ernest Holmes said, we do not make things happen. We make them welcome. I love that. We don't make them happen, we make them welcome. We resonate with a greater expression of our lives. We resonate with that larger, that greater mental equivalent of our lives. We align with that, and then being the clear vessel, being clear about our intentions, we allow that spirit to flow through us into form. We allow it to express itself as us into the world. That's our job. Billy Francis is a practitioner emeritus here at Vision, and she is a wise woman. And what I know about wise women is that when wise women speak, you listen to them. And she said this, she said, my only job is to create a life that I love. My only job is to create a life that I love. And Spirit supports that. We are here to live a greater life of Spirit as us. And so, how do we do that? We keep saying, well, we're a practical spirituality. So how do we do that? There has to be a practical aspect to this work that we do, right? So for me, the first place I go is gratitude. The first place that I go is gratitude. If we want to create a greater expression for our lives, we must be in gratitude for the life we already have. In order to express a greater, does that make sense? In order to co-create with Spirit a greater expression of who we are, we have to be in gratitude for what we are already having and being and expressing in the world. There is a saying that gratitude makes what we have enough, and then that enough becomes more. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Gratitude makes what we have enough, and then that enough becomes more. And that's what happens when we practice gratitude. We start with being grateful for everything in our life that is already good. The sunshine, the water we drink. We have clean water in this country. That's amazing. More than most countries in the world. I am grateful every single morning for indoor plumbing. I swear to God I am. It might be a little thing to some people, but I am so grateful for indoor plumbing. There are hundreds of things that we can be grateful for before we even get out of bed, before we put our feet on the floor. We can be grateful for, first of all, the mattress that we're getting out of, the bed, the roof over our head, the fact that we can flip a switch and put electricity, into a light bulb and light up a room. We can be grateful for hundreds and hundreds of things before we even leave our house in the morning. Gratitude. So being grateful for what we have opens us up to a greater expression. It simply opens us up for a greater expression, for a greater experience of our lives. The things that we take for granted go away. I don't know if you've noticed it, but when you stop looking at something, when you stop thinking about something, when you start taking it for granted, it goes away because there's no energy there. There's no energy on it. So being grateful is actually pouring energy into the things we love. It's pouring energy into the things that please us in our surroundings. And what we know is where energy goes, right? That's what grows. That is what grows. So grateful is where I begin. And then the other thing I think about is service. Because service gets us out of our little selves. Service always expands us into a greater consciousness, into a greater expression. Being of service gets us out of self-centeredness into selflessness. They say the greatest way to stop thinking about your problems is to go serve others. Go do something good for someone else. When we pay it forward, when we do unto others, when we lift someone else's burden, we're lifted also, right? Doesn't it feel good when you do good? It feels good when you do good. So being of service is one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves. That is a great way to express gratitude and to expand our consciousness. The other thing we do is affirmative prayer. Right? That's the basis of our whole teaching. That is the basis of this faith tradition. So if you want to look at the big picture, you do prayer. Prayer changes things because it changes us. We say that every week. Prayer changes things because it changes us. When we go to prayer, we put principle into action, and that simply says yes. We put principle into action, and it simply says yes. We throw a book off the balcony, gravity will do the rest, right? When we throw our word into law, principle will do the rest. It's the same thing. It is a spiritual principle in the natural world. We don't worry whether or not gravity is going to work this time. We know it. We know it for sure. Same way with putting our word into the principle. Into the law. We know cause and effect. This is the way it works. So how else do we expand our consciousness? How else do we see the big picture? You know, there's there was another practical piece I read last month in preparing for this talk. It says the three most difficult tasks, and I'm not going to take that on. I don't know about the whole difficult, easy thing. I just think in God it's just all good. But the quote was, the three hardest tasks in the world are neither physical feats nor intellectual accomplishments, but moral acts. And they are to return love for hate, to include the excluded, and to say I was wrong. Now, I don't have to say I was wrong. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, other people say they're wrong. No, really. Okay. To return love for hate, to include the excluded, and to say I was wrong. The three really moral acts that we do. And each time we return love for hate, we heal. We heal a place in the world. Each and every time we return love for hate, we become that place of healing on the earth that we are being called to be. Each time we include the excluded, we reaffirm our truth. We reaffirm the truth of our unity. There's one life, there's one God, there is no other out there. When we include the excluded, we are standing in the truth of our unity, of the unity of all life. And each time we say, I was wrong, we put ourselves in a position of growth. I can learn something new. Oh, what a concept. Each time we say, I was wrong, there's something for us to learn. There's some way we grow in that situation. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, as we contact this higher principle in our own lives, which is perfect and complete, needing nothing, wanting nothing, knowing everything, being happy and satisfied, and as we daily meditate upon this indwelling God, we acquire a greater mental equivalent. And that's what we're talking about. That is the big picture. As we daily meditate upon this as being the truth of us, we take on that truth. We live that truth in the world. I am the representation of spirit right here, right now. Hi, how do you do? You know, I'm spirit in form, and so are you. You know, what are we going to create together? If God is the only activity in my affairs, what is there to worry about? What is there to fret over? What is there to doubt? What is there to fear? If God is the only activity in my life, if God is the only activity in my affairs, what am I to be afraid of? God and I are a majority. There is nothing at the physical level for me to have to want to control or to be afraid of or to fear. Because I am the embodiment of the divine in form. It is living its life through me. And if I were truly to believe that God is in charge and all is well, I can rest in that truth. That's the big picture. That is the big picture. And when we get lost in the details, we wind up traveling down the road of fear and worry and anxiety. And when we're done with that, that's okay. I mean, we do that. That's human. You know, we're all humans. We forget we're divine. We forget our power. You know that Marianne Williamson quote about, it's not our darkness, but it's our light that most, frightens us. We forget how powerful we are. We forget the truth of our being. And we wander down that road of worry and anxiety and fear and doubt. And it's all right, but just, wander down there and then be done with it. Go down there, but don't plant yourself there. Go down there and don't build a condo there. Keep moving and get back to the truth. Get back to the big picture. Get back to the truth of your being. I am spirit expressing. Everything else is just small stuff. See that? I said stuff. Aren't you proud of me? And we are told not to sweat the small stuff, right? We are told not to sweat the small stuff. We are spirit in form. We are spirit expressing. The only truth of us is that the activity of God is expressing through our lives as us. That's the only thing we are. We are spirit having an experience. And are you giving spirit a good time? Because that's our job. That is our job. To be that whole, complete expression of spirit as us. And when we remember the truth of who we are, when we remember that God is the action in all of our lives, there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to doubt. There is nothing to worry about. We are simply Spirit expressing. That is the bigger picture. That is the bigger picture. And then we can rise above the details. And we know God's got my back. God is in charge and all is well. Michael Josephson wrote this passage. It's called Live a Life That Matters. And I just get all emotional when I read it. Anyway, I'm going to read it. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, no hours, no days. All things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, your fame, your temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owned by. Your grudges, your resentments, your frustrations, and your jealousies will finally disappear. So too, your hopes, your ambitions, your plans, and your to-do list will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived in the end. It won't matter whether you were brilliant or beautiful. Even your gender and your skin color becomes irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave away. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter are not your memories, but the memories that live on in those who love you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom, and for what. Living a life that matters does not happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but it is a matter of choice. Choose a life that matters. That is the big picture, and everything else is details. Choose a life that matters. Thank you so much.